It's Algebra 2, test number 7, going through lesson 2.3. Study guide number 1 says graph the equation 3x plus 6y equals 6 by finding the intercepts. Okay, so what we're looking for is on your plane, we're looking for where it crosses through the x-axis wherever it is and where it crosses through the y-axis wherever it is. So let's find those 2 points based on this. 3x plus 6y equals 6. If I want to find the x-axis, I plug in 0 for y. So that gives me 6 times 0, which eliminates that part of the problem. So 3x is equal to 6. When you divide by 3, the x-intercept is 2. So I did this one in blue. But the x-intercept is at 1, 2. So right there is where it's going to go through. Your y-intercept is when you plug in finding a y-intercept is when you plug in 0 for x. So 3 times 0, again, eliminates that part and gives you 6y is equal to 6. When you divide by 6, y-intercept is 1. Again, I did this one in red, but your y-intercept is at 1, which is there. Those are your 2 points, so now you have 2 points. You can draw a line through them like Pee Wee Herman. That's what your graph should look like. If when you get to the test, if you forget about x and y intercepts, make it mx plus b and graph mx plus b. Okay? 2 different methods you can use. Most people are more familiar with that method. That being said, this one says graph negative x plus 3y equals 12. Doesn't tell you which method to use. So the easier method here is also using the x and y intercepts because it's nice and neat. But most of you probably did not do that. Most of you probably said, well, let me make it say y equals mx plus b. This is not y, so it's got to be moved over by adding x to both sides. If you add it there, add it here. On the next solution step, you have 3y is equal to x plus 12. And then divide by 3 to get y by itself. You have to divide this and this by 3. So y equals 1 over 3x, or 1/3 x, plus 4 divided by 3, 12 divided by 3 is 4. Now it says mx plus b. You did not have to make it say that, but that's a way that more y'all are familiar with graphing. So y equals mx plus b. This is your m value. This is your b value. B is your y-intercept. It tells you where to begin. This is your y-axis. So at 1, 2, 3, 4 is where it's going to cross through. That's your first point. That's where you begin. Your slope is 1/3. It tells you rise over run. Since it's positive 1, it tells you to rise, go up. Since it's positive 3, it tells you to go to the right where the positive numbers are. So go up 1 more from your point and over to the right 1, 2, 3 more times. There's your second point. And draw your line through the 2. Again, even if you used the x and y intercepts, or if you picked 4 points or 5 points and you graphed it, you'll still come up with the same picture. Number 3, 4, and 5, we're finding the slopes of these. So the first one, y sub 2 minus y sub 1, negative 1 over 2. And you're going to have to write this one out since it is fractions with not like terms. You're not going to be able to do this one as easy. Now, or not like denominators, I should say. Negative 1 over 2 minus, since it's talking about the difference of them, a negative. Minus a negative means plus a positive, 2 over 3. In order to get the denominators the same, we have to convert them to their least common multiple, the number they both go into, the smallest number, which is 3. This has to multiply by 3, so does the top number, negative 3. This has to multiply by 2, so does the top number, positive 4. So now your bottom number is the same, 6. You add negative 3 and positive 4 to get 1 over 6. So your x point of your slope is 1 over 6. Now watch what's going to happen with this next part. Over, that's your y, change of y. Let's ignore this one for a second, just so we can have some space. So that's your change of y, what's on top. Your change of x is what's on the bottom. This minus this. 0 minus 1/2 is negative 1/2. So now look at the form that it's in right here. 1 over 6 divided by, now write it up here, 1 over 6 divided by negative 1 over 2. Remember, dividing fractions is the same thing as multiplying by the reciprocal. So change this to multiplication and flip this, or use the reciprocal. 1 over 6 times negative 2 over 1, or simply negative 2. So if you multiply straight across from there, and I know I'm running out of room, but if you multiply straight across from there, you'll have negative 2 on the top, and then 6 times 1, you'll have 6 on the bottom. All we have to do to reduce this to get it into its simplified form is divided by 2, and you'll have negative 1 over 3. There is your slope for number 3. That was a more involved problem than I thought it was going to be just because of the fractions. 4 and 5 will be a nice little reprieve, though. They're nice and easy to do. 4, make sure you just find the two numbers that are, find the 2 points that are highlighted. You could use any 2 points, really, but you can make sure you're using the right ones if you use the highlighted ones. Notice it's counting by 2s for each of them. 2, 4, 6, 8. They only show you 4 and 8, but notice each line counts by 2s. So your slope talks about your rise over your run. Remember, a rise is what an elevator does. It goes up or down, not just up. So if you start at the one that's on the left, count how many times you got to go down to get to the next one. So down 2, down 4, down 6, down 8, down 10, and then it doesn't go down to the next line. It goes halfway. So down 10, 11. So down 11 would be negative 11. And count how many times you have to go to the right from there. You got to go to the right 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, and then again, not quite to the line, 13. So to the right, 13. There's your slope for number 4, negative 11 over 13. 5 deals only with integers, so it's nice and neat, unlike number 3. Your m is y sub 2 minus y sub 1. This is your x, this is your y. This is your x, this is your y. This is 0.1, so it's sub 1. This is 0.2, so it's sub 2. M is equal to y sub 2, that's this one, minus y sub 1, that's this one, over x sub 2, that's this one, minus x sub 1, that's this one. 7 minus 5 is 2. 9 minus 10 is negative 1. So your slope for this one is negative 2 over 1, which is simply negative 2. Number 6 says simplify this by combining like terms. Like terms have the same variable, same exponent. Negative 5d and negative 4d. Don't leave off the negative with them. So negative 5 minus 4 is negative 9d. You could also put together c and negative 9c. That's like 1c and negative 9c. Those are opposite signs, 1 and negative 9. So subtract them. 9 minus 1 is 8c. And 9 is the larger absolute value. Keep that negative. Most of y'all probably wrote it, this one first and this one second. So negative 8c minus 9d. Negative 3 times 3y plus 4 plus 3y. Distribute. Negative 3 plus 3y is negative 9y. We distribute because we know we got to do my dear before we do Aunt Sally. You have to multiply. Negative 3 times 4 is negative 12 plus 3y. Put your like terms together. Negative 9y and positive 3y. Opposite terms. Negative 9, positive 3. Subtract them. 9 minus 3 is 6y. And 9 is the larger absolute value. It's negative, so negative 6y minus 12. Now we're solving these equations. You have variables on both sides of number 8. You want to collect your variables by bringing the smaller one over to the larger one. Negative 7 is smaller than 3. So we want to bring this term over to the other side. It says negative 7y or minus 7y. So to undo that, add 7y. If you add it there, add it to the like term here, 3y, which gives you 10y. While we're at it, instead of wasting a whole nother step, while we brought the variables over to the left, let's bring the constant term over to the left. It says negative 5, which is minus 5, Add 5 to that side to cancel it out. If you add it there, add it here. Negative 9 plus 5. Again, opposite terms. Subtract the absolute values, 9 and 5, and you get 4. 9 is the higher absolute value. It's negative, so it's negative 4. Now get y by itself. That says 10 times y. So get y by itself by dividing to cancel out multiplication by 10. And if you divide the right, do the exact same thing to the left. Now we got the number 2 that goes into both of these. It goes into negative 4, negative 2 times, and it goes into 10 5 times. So y's value is negative 2 over 5. Before you try to bring anything across the equal sign for number 9, you have to simplify each side. 6y and negative 4 can't be put together because they're not like terms, but negative 2 can distribute to both things in the parentheses. Negative 2 times y is negative 2y, and negative 2 times 5 is negative 10. Now we have an equation, again, just like number 8, with variables on both sides. So what we want to do is collect our variables by moving a smaller one over to the larger one side. Negative 2y, when you move it over to the left, you add 2y. 2y plus 6y is going to be 8y right there. And negative 4, when you move it over to the right, you're going to add 4 there. And when you add 4 to negative 10, you're going to get negative 6 there. So we have 8y is equal to negative 6. Then when you divide, I'm going to show this next step where nobody gets lost. Divide by 8 to get y by itself. You have to divide the other side. Again, 2 goes into them. It goes into negative 6, negative 3 times, and it goes into 8 4 times. Y is equal to negative 3 over 4. Number 10, this problem looks familiar. 6 times x minus 0.8 minus 0.2 times 5x minus 4 is equal to 1. Again, completely simplify one side before you try to bring anything across. Distribute 6 times x and 6 times negative 0.8, negative 4.8. Minus 0.2 distributed times 5x is minus 10x, or 1.0x, because it's not 2, it's 0.2. And negative 0.2 times a negative 4 is going to be a positive 0.8 equals negative 1. Again, before we try to move anything across with that equal sign, we have to combine our like terms. 6x and negative 1x is going to be 5x. Negative 4.8 and positive 0.8 is going to be negative 4.0, or simply negative 4, is equal to negative 1. Now we have our equation simplified to the point where we can start moving stuff across. Negative 4 needs to go to the right side by adding 4 to both sides. Still leaves you with 5x on the left. 4 plus negative 1, subtract them since they're opposite signs. You get 3, and 4 is the higher absolute value, so keep it positive. Then get x by itself by dividing by 5 on both sides. And x is going to be simply 3/5. 11 is a two-step equation. Remember, you work order of operations backwards. You undo Aunt Sally before you undo multiplication and division. Oh, my dear, we have plus 4 we want to get to move over by subtracting 4. If you do it there, do it here. Now we have the same signs, negative 3 and negative 4. So add them up and keep the negative. This cancels out, which leaves us with x over 8 on the right. Undo over 8, which means divide by 8 by multiplying by 8. If you multiply to right, do likewise on the left. A positive times a negative, opposite signs, is negative 56. This cancels this out. X is equal to negative 56. And we'll pick the rest up on part 2 of the video.